Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to my wormery. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the vermicompost itself. And it's something that I've been a little bit concerned about for a while now. Not so much concerned, but curious about. I know for a fact that I've got worms sliding through, and I also know that I'm probably loaded with cocoons and eggs that are probably yet to hatch in there. And it seems like kind of a shame for them to grow up small, find a lack of food, maybe never even grow big enough to breed, and I guess that's probably how they control their population. But something that maybe others do as well. I felt like I had to come up with something to really make sure that there's no worms left behind in my worm compost. So the idea I came up with was to empty my container into one of these trays, hopefully bringing it up to the point where it's high enough that this other perforated bin could rest right on top of the material, and then load this thing up with all kinds of delicious food. And I guess there's probably not a whole lot of anything to eat left in that thing. And then I think they go to the surface anyway when they sense that they're hungry, and they'll just eventually make their way up through these holes into the newly set up material. So that's really all I was going to do today. Probably not a lot of worms to be seen, because it's really just a matter of building up that environment for them to want to come up into, and then emptying the material into the lower bin and placing this on top. So shouldn't take long. I just figured I would kind of bring up the topic to see if anyone else has thought about this, or how they manage that situation, or if they just don't even bother. It's not worth the effort. But I'm curious to see, since I've got spare bins at this point anyway, I'm just curious to see what becomes of that. Since I just did a harvesting not too long ago, I'm certain that there's a fair number of cocoons and eggs and small worms that slip through that would probably wind up in this bin. So let's set this thing up and we'll see how it works. Well, we won't see how it works today, but we'll at least kick off something that I'll be curious to see what the results pan out to be. All right, so let's just set up the bin first. That's going to be the oh, that's not good. All right, so let's set up the bin first. I guess what we have here are, what do we have? This is dry leaves and leaves that have been marinating. Some nice soaked leaves. Here we have some coffee. This is some banana peel that's been thawing, came out of the freezer a couple hours ago, and some chopped up newspaper. Could do it in here. There's plenty of water in here, and I just remembered that I've got a block of cocoa coir we can include in this mixture. It's just a little brick of this stuff, and I think there's probably enough liquid in there to help this stuff expand out to a nice okay. So let's lay in this layer of newspaper. Wet newspaper first. The cocoa coir is pretty fine, so it just sort of kind of ends up looking like sawdust. But it's the kind of stuff that I imagine the worms really like, because it's just the right size. Alright, I guess what remains is probably more cocoa coir. Alright, so now since the worms are going to be coming from below upwards, and they might be wanting to eat, and some of them might be young and might not have any grit in their gizzards. I think sprinkling some eggshell dust on here would be a good next layer to put down. There again, if this is going to be sort of a nursery with newly hatched worms coming out, then the grit will be absolutely essential for them. I imagined at least half of this coffee, maybe placing the bananas down on, and then the coffee on top of that again, sort of layering the banana within the coffee. And once again, I think the coffee is just the right size that they really enjoy. And there's always plenty of used coffee grinds around here. These dry ones in the middle, so that they can just absorb some of the excess moisture if there is any. Here I'm thinking the banana peels. Yeah. These have all been frozen, so as they thaw, they're going to become nice and mushy. And then besides these larger chunks, I've also got, spread this stuff out a little bit. I've also got some diced up banana. Okay. This just seems like the final stage in the whole life cycle that I haven't really considered much yet, and I think I've even acknowledged in previous videos that I haven't looked at cocoons and the next generation of worms too much. So hopefully this is kind of I'm kind of thinking ahead now the right way. This is more just cocoa core. Just drop it. All right, maybe. All that banana is going to produce a fair amount of moisture, I think, so that's where this fine, dry stuff might come in good. And what else do I have? I've still got the wet leaves. I guess I'll put those on top. Let's polish off the coffee grinds here. I'll use cardboard to cover it at the end, but I've been thinking maybe more readily edible stuff as opposed to cardboard, which I think takes them a fair amount of time to break down. I think we're at the stage where we could probably do that now. Let's put the worm compost down into the lower section. Hopefully it comes up to a high enough point that that other bin rests on top of the material and doesn't just get pinched here on the sides of the lower bin. Pretty sure we'll have it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the right amount. I was kind of eyeballing it earlier. I was even thinking of maybe using a deeper bin, but I think this one's going to work okay. So let's see how this fits in here. Oh boy, gotta be careful. Still a little bit left in here. I'm gonna try to dislodge it because it's caked into the container under its own weight. Just want it to sort of spill out of the container smoothly and evenly. I don't want it to just come dumping out at once. Seems like it's settling a little bit, just from a little bit of shaking. And I'm sure just the weight of the other bin being on it, it should bring it down pretty good. So let's see how that goes. All right, well, We'll see how that goes. Could be lower, maybe there'll be more settling. Maybe if worms come out, then there'll be more space for the compost to settle. But for now, this is it. Let's see how it turns out. Let's leave it be, and I'll go ahead and I'll clean up the mess here. So thanks again for sticking with me, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'd be curious to see if others feel the same way as I do about, you know, maybe needing to give worms in this situation a way out or what. So, you know, let's hear your comments, and I'll be curious to see what other people do, or if they do anything at all. All right, thanks again for watching. Oh, still got the leaves to put down. I almost forgot about that. Let's get that in here as well.